Evil corporations. They are a staple in science fiction, using their vast wealth and resources to do utterly horrible things, all in the name of greed and capitalism. Some of the most fun of these evil corporations, though, are found in the pages of comic books. So, I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and this is the top 10 most evil comic book corporations. If you like this topic, make sure to let me know in the comments down below, along with possible suggestions for part 2. But coming in at number 10 is Mason Oil Imports. Alright, look. DC Comics only has like one company that made it into this list, so to make up for that, we're gonna kick this off with DC's Mason Oil Imports. This company appeared in The Flash Volume 2, number 12 in May of 1988. They were at first a super legit New York City business that imported olive oil to the United States, but in the dark belly of the criminal underworld, Mason Oil Imports was actually a front for Nick Basaglia and his criminal enterprise. Mason Oil Imports not only used the company to move his illegal products, but they also synthesized Velocity 9, a substance that both made its user high, but also allowed them to run at super speeds with an incredibly deadly downside. The company and its owner were, funnily enough, inspired by Vito Corleone from The Godfather, who also used an olive oil company as a front for his family and their crimes. In at number 9, Hammer. Hammer Industries is the first British company to make this list, so obviously it's evil, right? I'm kidding. But they are actually pretty dastardly. Originally, Hammer Industries was an international design and manufacturing firm founded by industrialist and eventual criminal Justin Hammer. The character of Justin Hammer was created by David Michelini and Bob Layton as an example of what Tony Stark could have been if he stayed on the path of an arms manufacturer and war profiteer. So obviously, Hammer Industries is a direct competitor to Stark Industries, and once Stark moved away from creating weapons, Hammer became the leading company in that field. In one of the early stories, Hammer directly develops means to override the Iron Man armor, causing the repulsors on Tony's suit to activate and take the life of the Carnelian ambassador to the United Nations. And then, just to make him even more decidedly devilish, Tony Stark learned that Hammer had been financing and outfitting some of the world's villains in exchange for profits. But the evil ways didn't stop after Justin's passing, as his daughter, Justine Hammer, which is a stupid name, took over with her and the Mandarin's daughter Sasha. They all teamed up with villains like Spymaster and Ezekiel Stane to try and ruin and discredit Iron Man and his new company, Stark Resilient. In at number 8, Roxxon Oil. As one of the world's largest fuel conglomerates, the Roxxon Energy Corporation, like any real-world business, has the main goal of trying to grow and increase their profits, but also, like many of the real world's largest corporations, possibly, it's not entirely clear if all its businesses and business transactions were entirely legitimate. Actually, it's pretty safe to say that a lot of Roxxon's activities have been pretty morally questionable, if not outright illegal and despicable. But being one of Marvel's comics' biggest companies with an annual revenue exceeding $500 billion, employing over 100,000 people, and operating in 28 countries, a lot of Roxxon's misdeeds are not entirely well known and kinda just swept under the rug. Despite that fact, they've been shady since World War II. Roxxon was one of the earliest funders of S.H.I.E.L.D., but at the exact same time, they were also tied to Hydra, smuggling weapons, and when they were discovered by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director at the time, he was taken out before he could tell anyone. I mean, in one of their very first appearances, the chairman, Hugh Jones, was saved from the Serpent Squad by Captain America, only for him to use the Serpent Crown to try and take over the United States government, and transported the Avengers to Earth 712, pitting them against the Squadron Supreme. Also, more recently, Dario Agger of Roxxon made a deal with Malekith the Accursed to essentially be given the rights to strip mine any world that the Dark Elf conquered. That's messed up! Are you liking this list so far? Well, make sure you drop a like to let us know so we can make more videos just like it. But in at number 7, Veidt Enterprises. In the world of the Watchmen comics, one company seems to show up in almost every area of everyday life: Veidt Enterprises, a multinational conglomerate founded by billionaire industrialist and super genius Adrian Veidt, or as he is also known, Ozymandias. Adrian used his time as the superhero Ozymandias, unmasking himself and gaining a huge amount of popularity, which helped spark his massive commercial enterprise, all with the end goal of achieving world peace. I mean, there was the whole narcissistic improving his own self-image thing as well, but world peace was like the main thing. Vite Enterprises had a ton of companies under its belt, including Gordian Knot Lock Company, Pyramid Deliveries, Construction, Global Construction and Press, Nova Express, a gossip magazine, Vite Cosmetics and Toiletries, Vite Energy, and a bunch of others dealing with all kinds of different everyday life things. Vite even manufactured the Spark Hydrant, which was basically an electric car recharge station, which we now have in the real world thanks to Tesla. Is Tesla just the real world Vite Enterprises? Maybe, but I don't think Elon Musk is using his monetary resources and super intellect to secretly create a gargantuan tentacled one-eyed psychic monster to end the lives of millions of people with the goal of scaring the world powers into working together to save us from an inevitable World War III. Or maybe he is. Who can say? I can't. I just work here. Number 6. Vought American. Fans of The Boys TV show know Vought is just an incredibly despicable company. Their comic book counterpart, on the other hand, though, isn't as absolutely evil, as they are just really embarrassingly bad at everything. In the comics, Vought started out as an arms company and were pretty infamously well known for their exceedingly poor products. For example, the Vought F-7U Grizzly, which was a fighter plane that Vought supplied to the US Navy during the end of World War II. And while it had crazy speeds and awesome range, it had faulty weapons and non-self-sealing fuel tanks all over it that would burst into flames. They also supplied faulty rifles to the army during the Vietnam War. So yeah, they just kind of sucked at their job, but that all changed with the work of Jonah Vogelbaum and Compound V, which gave the world its first superheroes. Now, the company makes a fortune off the advertising and merchandise of its superheroes. All the while, the company ignores or endorses its heroes' incredibly villainous behavior while they aim to get their heroes into the military, which is the whole reason the Boys exist. Specifically created to counter lobbying efforts from Vought and prevent them from ever getting a foothold in the military. Number 5. Oscorp. I think one thing a lot of these corporations have in common here is, well, actually they have multiple things in common. Outside of an unimaginable amount of greed that causes them to do the most despicable things, there seems to always be some massive ego-fueled madman at the helm, and Oscorp is no different. Oscorp was created and ran by its CEO, Norman Osborn, who formed a business partnership with Mendel Stromm, who would later on become Robot Master. The partnership between these two became pretty irreparable when Mendel was caught embezzling from the company. But it actually turns out that was actually a big old fib. Mendel Stromm had gotten more popular than Norman Osborn, and Osborn was beginning to go deep into debt. Scared of being pushed aside by Stromm, Osborn made a deal with Mephisto, a literal hell lord, to destroy Stromm's life and reputation in exchange for his own son's soul. Norman gave up the happiness of his own son in exchange for complete ownership of his company. This one deal is what led directly to Osborn going insane, but it was also how he gained the Goblin formula from Stromm's notes. He then used the company to develop the Goblin armor, pumpkin bombs, and Goblin glider. Later on, during Dark Reign, Oscorp became the main supplier for the tech used by S.H.I.E.L.D. when he took over and rebranded to Hammer. Number 4. Alchemax. Alchemax is an interesting company. It didn't actually appear on Earth-616 until 2013. At this time, it was a multinational chemical corporation providing chemical, plastic, and agricultural products with hands in food, transport, health, and personal care. Norman Osborn, under the identity of Mason Branks, was the one to create Alchemax, merging Allen Chemical, which belonged to his daughter-in-law, Liz Allen, with stocks inherited from Oscorp by Normie Osborn, his grandson, and the remaining properties of the destroyed Horizon Labs to establish a strong empire for his grandson and the Osborn legacy. But this wasn't Alchemax's first appearance. Technically, they first appeared back in September of 1992 in the really awesome Spider-Man 2099 #1. In this future timeline, Alchemax, or Alchemax International, was the most powerful corporation in the world, and they had complete control over the whole of the United States. It had created products for basically every single area of consumerism, and had divisions in almost every level and aspect of society and government. They funded the military military and had a monopoly on private space travel, not to mention they owned their own private police forces and even a whole city. The difference here is that at some point an alien known as Avatar, with 2 R's to make it cool, took control of Alchemax's board of directors and pulled the strings from behind the scenes. Alchemax is truly despicable as the authoritarian leader in control of America in this future timeline. And at number 3, I want to step away from Marvel and DC for just a second here. For our number 3 spot, we gotta talk about Weyland-Yutani. Weyland-Yutani was a British-Japanese super company founded in 2099. They have divisions in weapons manufacturing, advanced technology like androids, faster-than-light travel, starships and computers, interplanetary shipping and transport, extrasolar colonization, and commerce. And by the year 2150, they owned pretty much everything in the world. Weyland-Yutani is one of the biggest examples of evil megacorporations in science fiction media, not just comic books. In the very first Alien movie, and then in almost every other one of their appearances, they are consistently sacrificing moral decency and the lives of their workers and colonists in order to make more money, with the prime example being the countless attempts to get a living sample of the xenomorph to exploit it as a biological weapon. Also, since 2021, Marvel has served as the principal publisher of Alien, Predator, and Alien vs. Predator comic books, taking over from Dark Horse Comics, who published the stories from 1988. So, for all you haters out there, this one totally counts. And at number 2, AIM. It's hard to even call Advanced Idea Mechanics a legit corporation at this point. Their whole goal is to overthrow the world's governments and be in total control, acquiring and developing new technological power to supply criminal organizations, all while turning one hell of a profit. Starting out as a subdivision of Hydra, a group of incredibly intelligent scientists were organized together by Baron von Strucker, and they developed all kinds of things focusing on robotics, bioengineering, bionics, and physics. With the incredible minds of AIM, all of whom were required to have a PhD, they created the Cosmic Cube for the Red Skull and multiple Cosmic Cubes afterwards. They created the incredibly powerful Super Adaptoid, and they mutagenically altered AIM scientist Dr. George Tarleton into the super intelligent MODOK, or Mental Organism Designed Only for Computing. But his super intelligence and ability also led to his super ambition, and he overthrew AIM and became MODOK again, but with a K. So now he is the Mental Organism Designed Only for Killing. So evil, so good. AIM has had run-ins with pretty much every single superhero at least once. They've created pocket realities to obtain advanced technology, brainwashed an entire city, inadvertently created the Man-Thing, turned Betty Ross into the terrifying Harpy, and revived the Red Skull. Like, what's up with that? Why would they do that? And finally, in at number 1, it's LexCorp. It's got Lex in the name. LexCorp is basically a business that directly represents Lex Luthor's massive ego, but it also represents his power. LexCorp was founded as an aerospace engineering firm in Superman number 416 from February of 1986. But the company pretty soon diversified its interests, growing to become one of the largest and most diversified companies in the world, all run under the ruthless and well thought out control of Lex Luthor himself. The company has grown so large that it directly and indirectly employs 2/3 of the population of Metropolis itself. The company has 8 separate branches, including Luthor Technologies, focusing on research and development of anything from weapons to air conditioning, Luthor Industries, which operates almost all of the city's utilities, including Lex Oil, Luthor Communications, which includes phone, television, and the Daily Planet at one point, Luthor Enterprises, which has cash businesses, hotels, rentals, restaurants, and public transport, Luthor Financial, which includes banks and investment firms, the Luthor Foundation, which is probably the best part of the company, supplying and supporting Luthor hospitals, Luthor Home for Children, and Luthor Foundation for the Arts. Lastly, there's the Luthor property holdings in Metropolis and miscellaneous things like LexMart, which is a supermarket, and Lextendo, which is video games. Do you see how many times I said Lex Luthor there? That man's got an ego, I'm telling you. And that's all I wrote. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe here at Top 10 Nerd. I'm Adam Andrews, and I'll catch y'all on the flippity flop. Peace out.